I should definitely give Horikoshi-sensei more credit. After writing such an ability like twice his quirk, with his cloning, I should have expected something pretty interesting for this quirk that Togata has. And to think the way his quirk works would have such dire consequences. I mean, we were all speculating that it had something to do with him not being able to breathe. He was, holding his breath. But in reality, it was much, much, much worse than we expected it to be. And the use of his quirk is incredible. And the way he can operate such a quirk with such huge drawbacks, it makes the character rather impressive. And what really blows me away is that it's not the fact that his quirk is strong, it's the fact that how much training and effort he's put into his quirk to allow him to become that strong. And it really goes to show you that abilities that we see throughout Boku no Hero Academia that might be completely useless and may not be that important at all or that strong compared to something like maybe All for One or maybe All Might's quirk. But some of these quirks that don't seem to be very strong, but in reality, they could possibly be one of the strongest quirks in the entirety of the series. Like, let's take Great Boy Minato for a second, okay? Togata's quirk has a lot of consequences to it. We just found out about that in this chapter. And let's factor in Great Boy's quirk. Great Boy, his quirk, on paper, it doesn't seem rather impressive at all. It's not really that impressive, and not many people will be saying, like, holy shit, this is going to be the strongest quirk in the series. Not many are probably going to say that at all, and probably still not going to say that to this chapter right now. However, with Horikoshi being able to dive into such a simple quirk ability, he takes it one step further. He goes beyond what we'd expect, and goes even further than what we've ever seen before in probably manga when it comes to these type of abilities. Let's talk about his cloning with Twice for a second, okay? As we know how cloning was, or in other series, it's something relatively simple. We don't really think much about it. It's something we've seen constantly in other series, in regular literature, movies, and stuff like that. But the way Horikoshi took cloning with Twice's quirk ability, it was fascinating because you realized what type of damages that ability could have on your mind, and how it could really fuck with you when you're growing up, and what it did to him when he was a younger person. And the same can be said for Togata. As we know with his backstory, we found out that at one point in time, he wanted to give up being a hero. He completely wanted to give up being a hero because he felt like there was probably no point anymore. He just, like, his quirk ability was working against him, and he probably just didn't feel like moving on anymore. But finally, he got out of, that rut he was in and managed to continue pressing forward where we see him at today, which is a very respectable thing to see. I mean, for someone that started from the bottom and is now, like, near the top of the heroes, it's really impressive. And definitely Togata is a good role model for all of the characters in the series to show, even if your quirk ability has so many negative repercussions, it does not mean that you can't become one of the best heroes of all time. You just gotta know how to use your quirk and how to be very different with it. You gotta be imaginative, and that's exactly what Togata did. And so let's kind of discuss his quirk ability for a second. His quirk allows him to phase through anything. That means even the ground. And this is something that I've seen many mention many times already about Togata's character, but not just for Togata, but other characters that could phase through different objects and stuff, and from other series, from comics, to movies, to books, to manga, anime. I've seen many discuss, the phasing ability. Like, oh, can this person phase to the ground, and if they phase too far, would they fall to, like, the core of the earth? Like, would something like that really happen? This is something that's constantly been mentioned when there is a character that may be able to phase through different objects. And I'm impressed that Horikoshi actually dived into something like that. He didn't try to just, brush under the rug. He didn't try to just, go around it. He just went straight headfirst into the ability and explained how this ability would be very bad if you just used it and didn't realize the repercussions. So, the actual repercussions of the ability allows you to phase through everything, which in reality, it sounds like it's good, but it's not. Because if you can't control your quirk ability, obviously, you're gonna fall straight for the ground. And what does that mean? Okay, let's just say right now, you watching the video, if you had this quirk ability, you activated, you didn't know how to control it, and you fell through your floor, and you started falling through the ground, and you started going deeper and deeper under the ground, and you're passing through cave systems, many layers of the earth, that's gonna freak you the fuck out. You're gonna be like, what the fuck is going on? You're going to be very fucking scared. And if you have the sensation of falling and phasing through things, that's just gonna be terrifying. And you gotta imagine how much stress that must put you under if you realize if you fuck up with your quirk, you could fall straight for the freaking Earth. You could fall straight through the planet, probably to the other side, and right there. So, that's scary. But on top of that, he could possibly go to the core, and we don't even know what would happen. Like, for instance, if he could still phase through the core, if there's some way if he tried to, you know, kind of get back out and teleport to the top again, like, you know, just, you know, appear, if he would die as soon as he tries to make himself, you know, not able to phase anymore. Like, if he deactivated his quirk, would, like, let's say if he was in the core of the Earth, would it kill him? That wasn't completely dived into, but however, I like how Horikoshi let us know that this man, he has a fear, and he probably had a fear in the past with his quirk ability, with falling through the ground. His entire panel, with how he says, I have the sensation of falling since I still have mass. And you just saw his hand up in the sky, and as he's falling, and you see just this blackness all around him, it really shows that he felt lonely in that moment, but also how terrified he was when he probably used his quirk a very long time ago. And I feel like one of the big things he had to overcome when he was trying to get used to his quirk was the fear of falling. Maybe the falling sensation. I mean, you may think that might not be much at all, but you gotta imagine, even if you're not scared of heights, and you're not scared of falling, you could be one of the people that can jump out of a plane and try to fall to the, you know, the Earth and all that, okay? And, you know, parachuting down to the ground. Maybe you can do that completely fine. I have no idea. However, you're not going to tell me it's not terrifying if you can phase through everything and you cannot grab anything while you're phasing through the fucking planet. You're not going to tell me that's not scary. You're not going to tell me that. And if you're just now learning about this quirk, you don't know the limitations of it and how far it can go, and you're falling through the ground and you can't see anything, can't hear anything, can't taste anything, can't even breathe, you're gonna freak out. So, Togata's quirk ability, you know now that the reason why he probably wanted to give up being a hero is because he probably feared his own quirk. He probably was terrified. I mean, you gotta imagine this. If he has to do that every time he phases, that's a really big repercussion to his ability. I mean, think about this, okay? Let's just look at a battlefield standpoint, okay? Let's say a big battle's going on. Let's just say Togata is fighting all for one, okay? Let's just assume that. He's going up against this man, and obviously we don't know if, you know, abilities like messing with your mind will work on him or not, but let's just say they don't, okay? And Togata, he's completely fine. He can phase through everything, even mental attacks or whatever. He's completely fine. However, the only way he can actually gather information around him is by making sure his head and neck are still able to be non-phasable. For instance, anything could still hit his head. So the only way he could gather things is by, you know, deactivating the quirk on his head. And we do know that he can actually deactivate different parts of his body. It's not a full 100% body phasing. So let's say you wanted to make his fingers, you know, phasable, he could phase through something with his fingers, he can do that. However, you know, he could do different parts of his body. He could probably do like a part of his arm, he could probably do a part of his head, maybe he doesn't have to do the entirety of his head, he could do like maybe half his head, which might explain how he was talking to Izuku the entire time a couple chapters back. So what I'm getting at is the only way for him to be able to gather information with sight is by, you know, actually deactivating the quirk ability off of his face or his head in general, which that's very bad too. That's a really critical weakness. If you're in a fight with someone that could cause mental attacks, that would mean that he would get a mental attack and he would probably get messed up because he would have to deactivate the quirk off his head if phasing, you know, for some reason, you know, things phase from even mental attacks. So that's powerful right there. He has a critical weakness when it comes to that. And then on top of that, his ears too. He can't hear anything. So even if he had his eyesight going through the walls, he wouldn't be able to hear anything, you know, coming up behind him. Like someone was in the wall behind him or something, or if someone, you know, was coming up to his side and he couldn't hear him, he couldn't hear at all because his ears are phasing through things. They can't actually vibrate. His eardrums do not vibrate. And then also the same thing can be said about oxygen. When he's sitting there in the wall and he just has his head showing and he's saying something, he's still not able to breathe. He's able to exhale the oxygen probably already still in his lungs, but he cannot breathe anymore. He cannot, you know, actually take in oxygen and try to continue to breathe. He can't do that because, as he stated, if he phases through things, he makes his body to where he can phase through stuff, oxygen just goes straight through him. And that makes sense, and it's something I'm really glad that Horikoshi incorporated to his character, because, I mean, there's been many characters that can phase through things, and I always thought, like, that doesn't make any sense. I mean, if, you know, you can't be touched or felt by anything, like, someone could go straight through you, they shouldn't be able to, like, you shouldn't be able to hear them, you shouldn't be able to actually get light coming through you, because everything should phase through your body, and that's exactly what's going on with this character. light phases through his body. All, vibrations that would hit his eardrums normally just go straight through him. He can't, inhale oxygen to be able to breathe because it goes straight through his body. Even if he tried to breathe, like if he's like, it would just go straight through him. It would go completely through him, and he couldn't breathe at all. And so that is a terrifying repercussion, too, to his quirk ability. So Horikoshi really added a lot of negatives to this quirk. Even though it's a very powerful quirk, in reality, it's not the quirk that's making him strong. It's actually Togata himself that is making him strong. Which once again goes to show you one of the key themes of Boku no Hero Academia. It's not the fact that some quirks are just OP, it's the fact someone has worked so hard to make that quirk OP. Let's talk, for instance, about Izuku's quirk, One for All. It's been there since the very beginning of the series. Izuku has the #1 hero's quirk ability. He should be the #1 fucking hero already. That's what many would assume if this was a normal series. However, Izuku does not have access to that ability because his body cannot take that power. It would shatter like paper mache, which is a perfect balancing reason for his character. If he tries to use this power, it's just gonna shatter his freaking limbs, and that's what we've seen time and time again throughout Boku no Hero Academia. And so Izuku has his own limits. It's just stuff he cannot do. And even if your quirk is broken beyond repair, you still have your limits. There's still repercussions, and I love how Horikoshi always does this with his characters. Characters that you would never think would be this crazy with their quirk abilities, that would have this, layers to it, all these different layers, like twice his quirk ability with his cloning, to, now what we're seeing from, Togata. There's so many quirk abilities out there already in this series that are fascinating, and Horikoshi is really diving in and giving these characters some good characterization and adding depth to these abilities that we've never seen before from other shonen manga. And I mean, if he could do something like this with just like characters like Twice and then Togata, I cannot even imagine what he could do with our main cast of characters. Like I said, let's talk about Great Boy Mineta for a second. This man, even at the beginning of the series, he's like, oh, my quirk ability isn't much, is it? And he started tearing up and crying because it didn't seem like that powerful. But in reality, his quirk could be really, 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 really strong. And so I really hope Horikoshi dives into Mineta as one of the characters that he wants to add extra layers to show he is a strong fighter. He may not seem like he's strong, but he really is, depending on how he uses his quirk. So yeah, Togata as a character, definitely impressive. A fascinating quirk ability, a fascinating character, and also how he pushed himself to be able to predict things and also use his quirk to overcome the sense of falling. It's impressive. So yeah, Boku no Hero Academia this week blew my expectations just because of how the quirk ability was dived into. And don't even get me started with how if he phases through things, he positions his body and he teleports behind him. That's ridiculous. That's freaking ridiculous. But you gotta imagine how much fortitude you have to, use, or how much you have to need to be able to actually deal with that. I mean, think about it. You're falling, and you gotta imagine where you're probably gonna come out at. He probably went through a lot of training to do something like that. Like, it had to be ridiculous for him to be able to even try to figure out where his position would be while he's falling. Because, remember, he cannot see anything, he cannot hear anything, he cannot taste anything, he cannot even breathe. Everything is darkness around him. All he could feel is the sensation of falling. So, you gotta imagine being able to predict where you're falling at and how you could appear behind someone. That takes a lot of brain power. So, he's not a dumb character. He is definitely not a dumb character. He's someone that is probably one of the most intelligent characters of this series, just to be able to do stuff like this and overcome the limitations of his quirk ability. Now, getting off of that, though, let's talk about some of the comedy scenes, and then let's talk about the final part of the chapter. So, there was a very cute scene, or 3 cute scenes in this chapter, which I thought was pretty fucking adorable and just hilarious entirely. Let's talk about the Hado and Togata, scene. So, if you noticed when Togata started explaining his quirk ability, it was very brief, and honestly, you could easily miss it. You can really don't even need to pay attention to it, because it's something you wouldn't really notice if you're reading the bubbles. Like, if you're reading the speech bubbles and you're reading about the quirk ability of Togata, honestly, you would not even notice it. I didn't notice it until I reread it a second time, after I was just looking through, wanting to, see the character movements and what was going on in the panels, and also looking for a thumbnail. That's when I finally, discovered what was going on there. as you know, Hado was like saying, oh, I know what his quirk ability is, and she was about to, you know, explain the quirk ability, and then all of a sudden Togata interrupted her, and when he starts explaining it and all that, and then you just see how she's like all pouty, she's like, and then she like grabs his shirt and is like pulling it, and then you see how his face quickly moves aside, he's like, oh, I'm sorry, and then he just goes back to, you know, continuously speaking. I thought that was very funny, it's very cute, I just love that little interaction between those two characters. I mean, not many people will probably care about that, but just seeing little Hado just saying something like that, how she seemed very upset because he interrupted her and all that, and she just started tugging at his shirt. I'm like, that's fucking adorable. That's really adorable. And another great scene of the chapter was when Izuku, he was taking invisible notes on Togata's quirk ability. You had it to where Ochako realized, she's like, wait, invisible notes? Like, she realized he was just writing in thin air, and I was just laughing. I'm like, oh my god. Even when he doesn't have a notebook or anything there to write on, he's still taking invisible notes in midair. That was pretty funny. But then after that, there was an even better scene, which I was like, well done, Horikoshi, I like how you did that. After the explanation by Togata, how he explained his quirk ability, to how the internship is, and all that, how you can be a sidekick, Momo's like, oh, well, very well done, you managed to explain that in 3 panels. I'm like, oh my god, that fourth wall breaking from Momo, that's just too much. That's just too much. I smiled and laughed my ass off the way she was just clapping, like, pat, pat. You just see the sound effects of it as she's like, oh, how he managed to explain that in 3 panels. That's impressive. So, well done, Horikoshi, on that. So, yeah, I mean, it was a very funny chapter, but a very fascinating chapter when it came to Togata. I mean, even how Izuku was able to figure out what Togata was going to do, how he was going to come out of the ground behind him, Togata was able to counter Izuku's attack against him, which just shows you how much thought process that Togata has put into his fighting style and fighting opponents that managed to figure out his quirk ability. Now, there is one thing I do want to discuss before I carry on to the final segment of this video. There is another crucial weakness to his quirk ability, which I want to mention. Many might not think about this, and I kind of want to, you know, throw it out there. If you noticed, his quirk ability is powerful while he has objects he can phase through. Like, let me explain here. As we noticed, he could phase through anything. He even stated that. And then if he makes it to where his entire body can phase, he could fall through the ground. And one of the big tricks to his teleportation is that when he phases through the ground, he positions himself, and then he makes his quirk deactivate, and he teleports up to the ground. It's like his body gets ejected out of the object. You know, two things can't be in the same exact spot. Mass. And when we saw this, it's like, holy crap, that's incredible. But you gotta remember that if someone is a flying type of, you know, a user, like someone can fly, someone can, you know, levitate above the ground, and someone can use abilities to keep themselves afloat, his quirk ability honestly isn't that strong. That's a very crucial weakness to Togata's, you know, quirk. I mean, if someone is able to float in the sky, they're able just to sit there and fly, obviously, Togata can't reach up there to him. He cannot just instantly teleport up there to him if he goes underground, unless there's some way he can, you know, accelerate his speed or whatever when he tries to get ejected out of the ground. Maybe there's something to that. However, from what we know, one of the biggest weaknesses that he could possibly ever face is actually flying opponents, people that can fly. It seems like he cannot fight flying opponents at all. So just imagine, like I said in my previous video, like my little discussion video on Togata and All Might's quirk ability, what if Togata got, you know, one for all? What if he got that quirk ability, and if he was able to make up for his, you know, shortcomings with his quirk, and be able to, let's say, jump up there to the flying opponent and beat the shit out of him? It just shows you he would be pretty damn near invincible, like what was said in this chapter. But yeah, right now, though, his biggest weakness is definitely flying opponents, because he cannot use his phasing at all to fight his flying opponents, and also AoE opponents too seem to be a crucial weakness to him as well. You gotta imagine, even though he can be phased, like anything can phase completely through him, if he makes his entire body phaseable, that would mean that he would fall through the ground, which would mean that he couldn't be touched. But if he wants to be there sitting on the ground and then taking people's, you know, attacks, that would mean that his legs are not, they don't have the quirk ability acted on him. That means that he's not using the quirk on his legs, and someone could easily attack his legs and hurt him pretty bad. So, yeah, that's another weakness, too. AoE attacks seem to be a huge, huge flaw to him, too, because if someone's constantly activating an AoE, he can get easily fucked up. Like, he'll get fucked up as soon as he tries to gather information, because you gotta remember, he can't see anything, he can't hear anything, and he can't taste anything, he cannot breathe, so that would mean that even if he's above ground and he tries to pop himself back up, and if he doesn't see his opponents, because, you know, he won't know, and when he finally gets up, he's gonna get fucked up by a large AoE attack. That's why he wanted to deal with ranged opponents first. Remember what he said, he wanted to deal with the ranged opponents, because those are his crucial weakness. That explains so much why he attacked them, because if they used large AoE attacks against him, they learned how he was, or if one took to the sky, that's GG for him right then and there. So that is why he always deals with ranged opponents, because he cannot face them. If the fight is dragged on for too long, they're gonna find out, and he's gonna get fucked up. And so, yeah, he's not a type of person that should have a drawn-out fight. If the fight lasts minutes, like a long time, he's going to be done. So, once again, it lets us know, and there's a lot of clarification from Horikoshi here, that, you know, timer that we saw in the last chapter, that's not 5 minutes. That is not 5 minutes. That is 5 seconds. Because for his quirk ability to be based on speed, prediction, and quickly handling his opponents, 5 minutes doesn't seem like a good time for him, because it seems like it would take too long of a time. People would start figuring out his quirk ability, because, you know, they would realize AoE and ranged attacks would work against him. So, we now know that that was not 5 minutes. That was 5 seconds in the last chapter. Perfect clarification with this chapter. So, anyone that was saying 5 minutes, that's wrong now. We now know. So, that even puts in more perspective of how powerful he would be if he did have All Might's quirk attached to him. Because just think about if he had All Might's speed attached onto it, 5 seconds. Holy fuck. Just, yeah. Okay, so enough with that. Let's talk about the conclusion of the chapter. So we're introduced to, like, this new character called Sir. And I'm gonna be honest here, he reminds me a lot of Sakamoto. If you ever watched the anime Sakamoto, you probably know who I'm talking about. The character's like, looking like Sakamoto. I'm like, is that fucking Sakamoto? Because the way he looked, the way he just, you know, he had this atmosphere around him, like, yo, that looks exactly like him. But the character Sir was a sidekick to All Might. And from what we can assume here is that Togata was also like the sidekick to Sir. Now, we don't know exactly if the dude at the end of the chapter is Sir, but it's heavily implied that it is. So I'm going to assume it is Sir. Regardless, though, I'm interested to see what type of quirk ability this dude has, and also why this man was a sidekick to All Might, and why All Might never chose him to have his quirk ability. I mean, you gotta remember, All Might was searching for a successor for a very long time, so why would he not give his quirk ability to this dude that was his sidekick? Was there a certain reason because of the way his mentality was, or was it because of something else? Like, maybe he just didn't feel like he wanted it, or maybe the dude didn't want it in the first place. We have no idea, so we'll have to see where that goes. But yeah, overall, a very good chapter. A lot of information. I cannot wait to see what's going to happen next with the series. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and you have a wonderful day or night wherever you live. Please be safe. Chibi out.